the Watch Journey podcast, and my dear friend Pete Odgers and I are back. Pete boy, I can't remember how long it's been. When did we last get together?
Well, it must have been. I do all my dates in tennis tournaments, as you know, as in. So June and May don't really exist. It's like the French Open, and it must have been before the French Open, which was early May. So probably April, maybe.
Oh God,
maybe even before then.
Yeah.
Like because and it's all totally my fault.
No,
because
no.
I've just been flat out. I'm not even in the country, and here, there, everywhere. So
you've just finished Wimbledon.
Yeah.
You are actually working this week, so you've just finished at midnight last night.
Yeah.
So you've kindly jumped in with no sleep whatsoever. Your dear wife's been at home with the child for many, many weeks.
Yeah, I can't complain at all over anything. As in, like, everyone keeps going, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm in my sort of 6 week of working without a day off."
You're in the Hilton.
But like that is far easier than dealing with a 1-year-old for 6 weeks on your own. Yeah. So no, but good. It's been a I think I've said to you before on this that it has been a turbulent couple of years with my work, and I was privileged before where I didn't really experience freelancer life because I had just such a busy diary and it was all set up. And the last 2 years it's been like, whoa, don't know what's happening next. So actually the last 6-7 weeks I've done some amazing things, been to amazing events, and done my nice little ego boost, which I probably needed. And it's been phenomenal to do what I do. And it's been like, this has been amazing. So bit of a come down last night. I was doing some tennis. I'm sure all the viewers would have been tuning to Los Cabos at 2 a.m, watching the world number 921 play.
Before we come to what we're going to talk about today, did the right male and female win Wimbledon this year, do you think?
I mean, if you've just asked me the worst question possible, because I could go into a long story about Yannick Sinner, and I feel that Sinner should have been banned for the drugs ban. He should be banned longer. Personally, I just feel, if he was ranked 100 in the world, he would have had a ban. That's not to say he took drugs. I don't know. He's a good guy and all of that. But it stank a little. I felt he should have missed 1 or 2 majors. And for me, he should have at least missed 2 majors this part of the season. So I didn't want him to win purely on that basis. Like, I was chatting to lots of other people and they were like, but for their rivalry, wouldn't it be great if Sinner was to win? And I was like, normally I would have said yes. And next year I'll be saying, let's get Sinner to win for their rivalry. But I just wanted him to not win a major for a little bit of a while. And then Swiatek, great story, fantastic story, as in had a really tough year and showed just her absolute class. And I mean, people have said about her drugs ban, but her drugs ban for me wasn't as egregious, and she did have a bit of a ban for it. So I'm not she did a hair sample and all these other things. So not as bothered with Swiatek winning. Look, she was the best player in the tournament, so fully deserved.
She was ruthless. Her mentality was brutal.
Yeah.
Is Alcatraz? I call him Alcatraz by mistake.
Is
he the best of all time? Do you think potentially?
That's a big call. Not at the moment. Djokovic is the best of all time. I'm a data guy, stats guy, so Djokovic best of all time.
That'll be controversial because some would immediately outside of the world of tennis might. Yeah,
and it goes on who you probably preferred as a person or how they played, and a lot of people love how Federer played. Federer's up there he's one of the best of all time. You can argue semantics as much as you like, but I think real tennis journalists, proper tennis journalists, I would say. I mean, he's got more Masters than anyone else. He's more slams than anyone else. He's won a gold medal at the Olympics. He's, Federer's got more ATP Tour titles than him. And he did it in an era when Nadal and Federer were playing as well. He's got a better record against both Nadal and Federer. So for me, he is the greatest of all time.
Absolutely incredible to see that man look after himself at the age he is now. Yeah. It's something that's been on my mind a lot more in recent years, like that maintenance of your well-being and your physical performance. I mean, can't compare me to that man and his operation, but it's just incredible to see him looking after himself like that.
100%.
It's aspirational.
100%. The guy's a living legend, and I actually think he's the greatest sportsman of all time. But yeah, look, and I've been so privileged to be a sports commentator and deal with these guys for so long, and that was the thing. Actually, Djokovic fans can be a little bit. He can be a bit harsh if you're critical of him. And I think a few other commentators and journalists fell foul of that because they loved Federer and Nadal, rightly so, because they're greats and they're amazing and they're great characters and they've lifted the game so much. And I think he got a little bit of disrespect sometimes and I always felt like I was a failed tennis player. So I looked at those guys as well as Murray and just was like, these guys are freaks. They are incredible. They're amazing. They're just freaks of nature. And Djokovic even more for, continuing it even longer. But Federer continued for so long as well. Like, as in Murray did as well. Like, they are just obsessed with the sport. We won't see. I say we won't see the likes. It's crazy that we've now got Sinner and Alcaraz as well around, and they might do the same thing. It is weird how they've come along now. But yeah, just
and they're
legends.
similar age as well, both 22.
Similar age,
like
yeah.
20,
Alcaraz a
22.
little bit younger,
yeah.
but yeah.
Anyone out there listening to this might be mistaken for thinking this is a tennis podcast. It's not. It's about watches, guys. So we wanted to cover off a subject. Now, Pete's been up to all sorts. You've been to the US. You've been all over the place. We're going to touch on where you've been. But primarily, I wanted to touch on a subject that is close to our hearts for a number of reasons. But it's just something that I think as collectors, we have been maybe made to be more aware of in recent years than those interested in watches in decades prior to our tenure. But maybe in the last year, because prices have softened for so many brands, we haven't necessarily felt this as acutely. But F P Journe, the momentum, the wave is still there. It's still there. It's almost unstoppable. Like, it's almost Djokovic in his prime, like unstoppable. The issue we've got here is the Elegante, the watch you're wearing today. So you're wearing your Titanite black dial.
Yeah.
Sort of the rarer format.
Well, only because it's not been out as long as the others. But yeah.
So-called rarer format. And I'm not wearing mine. I'm not wearing mine. I'm wearing this Romain Gaultier C5, which I think represents a mechanical version of the Elegante in a wearability from a wearability standpoint. But the thing we're struggling with here is, and Pete has been very open and honest, I've been very open and honest over the years about the difficulties we found ourselves in, where the purchase of a watch hasn't been enjoyable, and the ownership to an extent hasn't been enjoyable because of the price. And it's a really interesting subject. We're coming to it today because the Elegante prices have reached an all-time high.
I mean, it's bonkers what's happened with them. I remember first purchasing it, as I said, in Milan, and I wanted a watch that held. Like, so if I was to, go off it or whatever, or I don't know, if I did change my mind over it, even though I fell completely in love with it, that I could just trade it back for similar, maybe lose a grand, whatever. As in, I wanted protection, or if I lost my job, or really needed money desperately. So what it's now at? Well, I mean, the last I checked, as in, the story of this was, I was, I knew this period of time was coming up. So I had the French Open, which is 2 weeks. I wasn't doing the whole of the French Open this year. I came back for 4 days. So I came back for 4 days. No time to go to my bank vault. And also my wife was like, here, have the 1-year-old, my son. So it was like, you're back for 4 days. That's it. Then I went and presented Queen. So I was up in London. Then I went away for 2.5 weeks to do the Club World Cup. Straight back in for Wimbledon for 2 weeks. And then I'm now here because I'm still doing another a week for ATP Tour on Los Cabos through the night. So haven't been home. So when I first set off on my merry way and my journey, I was like, right, well, which watch am I going to take? And I only really wanted to take one watch because the hotels, and I'm switching place and flying all over the world, like, difficult. Wanted something that's really easy. I was hoping there might be a pool in the US. There wasn't. I was thinking, what can I do everything with? What's my go-to watch right now for that? Elegante, perfect for all of those things. Shower in it, sleep in it, like, run in it, like, never leaves my wrist, like, perfect watch for that, right? As in, and then I leave the house, and then I don't know whether I was the first to see the auction. I think I just stumbled across it. Maybe I was just on Google. And then I think maybe you messaged me.
So literally like a month ago, I think Phillips had one.
Yeah.
We haven't got the up-to-date date. Well, I can find it on here.
There were two
there was
that
black,
happened.
Right? There was a black on black.
Black dial,
sold,
yeah.
and I think it was
$80,000
US,
yeah.
right? The US dollar's quite weak at the moment for
yeah.
us. Looking
yeah,
at it
I know. It was a bloody expensive trip to the US. Yeah.
But actually, looking online now on Chrono 24, I can find one black, one Titanite with a white dial for £75,000.
Yeah.
Your black, exactly the same for £90.
Yeah.
So
£90,000.
Yeah, that's well over 100.
Yeah, so it's 100 USD over. Yeah.
I can't find another black dial. So
well,
there's only one black dial for 90.
So when I set off, by the way, and every now and then I look at the Journes just to see. I actually quite like Chrono 24 just to see what Journes are out there, what the old ones are out there. And I remember before the French, I actually for a while hadn't spotted a black dial. I thought, oh, that's quite cool. I have no idea what they're selling for, but I quite like that. It's cool, not bothered by what it's selling for because I'm loving the watch.
It's hype on hype, isn't it? Because the model's hyped, but the black on black is the hype on hype.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously Tom Brady bought one.
Yeah.
I'm sure there've been others that I'm not aware of, but he's someone, I'm in sports, so I recognise when he was wearing one. And I remember walking into one of the watch places in London then saying there's only been like 8 of them in the UK or something. So I was like, wow,
And just to be clear, Pete, sorry, that came from Paris.
That came from Paris, yeah.
And that was like, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And this was the infamous watch we talked about where you had to borrow some money to make it work from a family.
Yeah, had to sell another watch
Yes.
to afford it.
Yes.
Sell a watch which was worth more
Yes.
to afford it.
And just touch on the price on retail, because that's something I can't remember.
So it's about 15K.
15K.
About 15, around 14, 15K.
So just let's get a head around it, because this is the subject of the matter today. Is how does that make you feel as an owner? Because you've got a £15,000 watch. We shouldn't say it too loud because anyone on the street walking by. £15,000 watch.
It's going to get worse.
That is 90 that you could feasibly. I mean, okay, they've listed it at 90. So what does that mean that you realize it for? Probably maybe 85.
Yeah,
call it 85. Maybe 80. Call it 80.
Yeah.
That is absolutely astounding.
Well, first of all, it was when I started to move, go and then I saw the auction, and it was 80.
I immediately messaged you on a
and then I think you got the second auction and then said,
Pete, what are you?
There's another $80. So it went twice. It was like bang bang. And I was initially a bit like, this is the only watch I've got. I'm away from home for 6 weeks. Like, as in, am I going to get mugged? Like, as in,
it doesn't help that you've got a big strap.
Yeah.
As a way to keep it dialed down.
Yeah. And so I was like, my everyday watch had suddenly become, do you want your everyday watch to be worth that amount of money? And I'm not sure I do, but at the same time, I don't know. I gave it a lot of thought because I was like, wow, this is just nuts. As in, it's a nuts. And as you say, it's hype on hype. Is it the 15202 type hype that we saw with it, or the Nautilus stuff that we saw?
But this is even more intriguing because this is outplaying everybody else in the field. Nobody else is operating at this level. Now, I should say at this point, I have mentioned it briefly. I have sold mine. Mine was the Titanite. Mine was the titanium, and it was I had it on the orange strap on me. I missed the watch a great deal.
Yeah.
But, and this leads us on to our next point, which is interesting, is that I financially needed that money.
Yeah.
There was a moment I sold mine for 46. I bought it for 30, pre-owned. And I had it for a year and I wore the hell out of it. I talked about it and I loved it. Don't get me wrong.
That's a great time, right?
Now, I would have loved to have kept it, but I literally needed to pay bills. And that is the tricky thing here. We, like so many of our friends, have a policy which is enforced on us through constriction of capital, which is such that if you want something new, you've kind of got to sell something. And at that point, I was like, nothing else in my watch box is going to yield. In fact, if I sold anything else in the box, I'm going to lose a significant amount. And I don't necessarily. I felt to myself, I was like, shit, that's not right. So let's get rid of the Elegante. I'm not upsetting anyone because I bought it secondhand. Now the guys at Journe, I've got to say, Sean and Ed and the guys in London have been amazing. They always have, and I felt bad because I'm friendly with them, and I loved talking about the watch. I loved wearing it to see them. I didn't have the obligation necessarily because I didn't buy it from them. But surely you're now at a point, people, and we didn't talk about this before we got into the studio, but you must be at a point now where you're thinking, we're talking money that. This is game-changing money.
Well, it's funny because we mentioned that the 15202, right? And that happened at a time. And again, Vanessa, AP House, amazing to me. To give me that watch was incredible at that time. And again, that happened at a time where I wasn't looking to buy a house. I hadn't, moved, all of those things. And the peak, but I was just like, I could never have done that. I look back and go, God, that 100 grand, what it went up to, 90K or whatever, similar sort of range, right? That would have been nice. And when I was then struggling this year or, trying to buy a house and you think, an extra 100 grand would have been really nice, really useful. But I still absolutely love that watch. And I think it will stay in my collection forever because I think we have moments. And also I think watch collecting and you have a relationship with people and with brands. And I think F P Journe in particular have been so good to me, so kind to me. And I have such a great relationship with Luca in Paris. I love the guys in London. And I'm not then keeping it because of that. As in, I absolutely love F P Journe watches. The brand just completely speaks to me. I completely connect with it. This watch in particular, right back to the beginning of my journey with F P Journe. And so then I was like, right, actually, this time, I've already said to you, I sold the Anderson Genève to buy a car. I have had a tough year. I'd bought a house already. So right now, I was telling you I'm actually struggling to pay a tax bill this month, but that's actually more to do with people not paying me on time. Cash flow. But it's not. But I don't need. I know I've got money coming in, as I've just said to you, how busy I've been. I've got a busy next 3 months coming up. So do I need to sell right now? No. Do I think it's going to come down? Of course, it's going to come down, and I do think it's going to come down. But what else would I buy with that? It would ruin my relationship with F P Journe. and I'm not just saying that because I then want more F P Journe watches at all. I just think like the trust that they've put in me. I know so many people now of the brand there. I love going in there. I love hanging out with them. I love speaking to them. Went to see Edward just yesterday, and I think they know I've just completely loved the brand. If I wanted to make money in the past, you know, look, let's when I was buying the house, you know, and I then lost work, it would have been easy for me to sell the Divine, right? Could have sold a Divine for a load of money. I could have sold the Yellow Peril for a load of money. Could have sold the Yellow Elegante for a load of money. I could have, but I love those watches so much.
Yeah.
Now, look, if I get into real trouble, I might have to make that jump. I might have to do that. And then look, I will have to take that regret that like the 15202, what it's worth now, like 40K or something now, as in I will have to take that hit knowing that. But then I believe relationships, and I'm called Honest Pete for a reason by some of my mates. And I just, you know, they have given me such, you know, like to give me a black dial is crazy. So I would be like, I'm not a billionaire. No. I'm not a billionaire. I can't just
not yet.
You know, tennis commentary one day will be where it's at, and they'll all be I don't think so. Doing a 2 a.m. shift. It's not quite there climbing the ranks, but you know, I'm not a billionaire. Whereas they do have plenty of customers who are billionaires. Yeah. They could have sold this black dial or given this black dial to a billionaire. They trusted me with knowing that I fully loved that watch. And so I just think it would be completely wrong to do that. Don't get me wrong. You know, telling my wife, hey, I've got a... And the uncomfortableness as well as going, oh, it's a 90K watch. But I think it's still... I'm hoping it's still niche enough. It's still niche enough. So one of the reasons I love Journe at the moment, and I think one of the reasons we can discuss why they're doing so well, I think they're in a category where they're niche enough, you can wear them in cities. Just about. Okay, like if the gold with salmon dial, maybe got to watch out a little bit if it's a bit too flashy. But I think they're just about niche enough that you can wear them in cities. So you're pretty safe with that, which is a huge thing right now. So you can wear an incredible piece of artistry, creation in a city. And then on top of that, they are refusing to make more watches. So it's 1,500 their production. They might make a couple hundred more here and there. So they're not probably going to do an AP or a Rolex and just pump out loads more watches. So they're then tough to get, and they're going to remain tough to get. Journe is still alive. He's still one of the very few watchmakers who's still alive and with us. So, you know, God forbid 10, 20 years, if he does pass, you know, do the watches then go up? Okay, it's cyclical, right? As in someone might go, actually, now they don't look so cool and they're not in vogue and whatnot. But I do think that there is a classic beauty to them. It's a timeless beauty to so many of them. This one is a bit more hype. It's a bit more modern, but there's still a classic beauty to it.
Yep. He's got a DNA that...
He's got a DNA that... And so I think, you know, I met up with actually another tennis commentator, Jason Goodall. He actually watched one of our podcasts. He lives in America, works for ESPN, earns more than I do. Does a great job, great commentator. Big watch collector. He was actually the first guy I spoke to about when I first started getting into watch collecting. Yeah. And he was like, oh, what are you wearing? And then he was like, oh, what's your thing about Journe? And he was like, oh, they're just going to keep going up and up and up. And I was like, I don't think they are. But I don't think it's as fake a bubble as what was during the COVID era, where everything was just going up. Because I think when you look at the metrics, supply and demand, I think the demand is going up, and I don't think they are producing more. On top of that, yeah, I just,
it's amazing, actually. Yeah. There's so many things. Sorry, people. Just
go for it. So I've thrown loads there. So many things on my mind.
You're wearing that watch all the time.
All the time.
That's the first thing that strikes me, right? That's the first thing that strikes me. There are other things that we own and that we like and that are in the watch box that probably don't get anywhere near as much wrist time. It's the most incredible watch to wear. And I sort of think about our lifestyles, and we could be pretty brutal about actually refining things to the absolute. You've done an amazing job, actually, of getting to your core 4 or 5.
Because I had to sell a couple to be able to drive somewhere.
You've gone through the journey of discovery in that way. And now we sort of understand where we're at. And I'd say something about titanium and there's something about rubber that just makes it really, really wearable. The interesting thing about him, and I sort of wonder whether we have reached the peak yet, because we thought we had. You know, I certainly, at that point, when I sold mine, I was like, God, this is all the money in the world. And there's no way that a quartz watch could be more than this. There's just no way. There's no way the market would allow for it. Yeah. But I've been proved wrong. I mean, it's doubled to some extent, and plus minus. And so I wonder, you know, how much further it's going to go. I'm curious about that.
I've got another thing just on that. Sorry, I just so I get my stuff out. There we go. I spoke to the guys at 1916 who treated me wonderfully well. Great place to go.
Yep.
Visited New York, visited the boutique there, visited the one in Philly. Lovely, fantastic. Saw these amazing dibber tunes and whatnot. But they obviously, I was chatting to George Meyer, and they, they were buying up all the Journes in auction. And he says now they can't get close. They're not even near. So the auction, they're not even. They're like it's out of there. But that shows you that there's and he's saying that like they're like second or third bidders, and there's so many others now. So again, it shows you that there's a pool of
But that's
of
really
people
interesting
bidding.
to me. Is we sort of know, like, the conversations behind the scenes of collecting are such that there are a few things that are actually playing against Journe, to play devil's advocate about where we're at. We know that there's funny buggers that have gone on. The world of watches has smoke and mirrors going on, and auctions are one of those environments where that happens. We know that those guys were buying them up and then manipulating the prices. We know collectors, for example, were buying up and colluding together. Although, we suspect that they have been over the years.
Yeah. I mean, 1916 have been fairly, saying, look, we were buying up at auctions.
Exactly.
Whether or
And why
not you're
not? Well,
manipulating prices there or not, I don't. You can argue one or the other, but
when you own so much of so much, then it becomes a case that you're able to. They're owned a little bit by Chanel, so Chanel have a stake in Journe. So it's actually not fully independent. Although I've heard amazing things about Chanel as an owner. They are very hands off. They don't get involved. They're very open. And then of course we've got the man himself and the rumors of his behavior at events and other things that have, by all accounts, upset some. Clearly not enough that they've offloaded and that he's no longer interested. And then finally, the watches themselves, for those who are deep into things like finishing. Now, we're in an era where there's loads of great watches that are time-only watches that are finished to a very, very high level. And Journes aren't at that level of finish. They're just not the levels of Romain Gaultier when it comes to the top-end stuff, which is really interesting. A lot of it's mechanized. It's machine-made. It's not necessarily as artisanal. And based on the numbers, how can it be?
And I think it's inventive as well. I think that again, obviously the brand, in terms of the strap line, I think that's what he's innovative. But still with a and I think that's what people, and I even think probably that behavior thing. I don't know fully the ins and outs of it, and obviously if it's really horrendous and whatnot. But I think there's also a lot of people are fed up with the sort of cancel culture way, and so that maybe even like, he's a bit of a mad professor who's just determined, and that's his personality. And I think that almost sometimes adds to it a bit.
What I hate is I hate gossip, and I hate the idea. Reputation is something you can't control, and characters you can control. I don't know him. I've not met him. And
I've chatted to a lot of people who do know him.
And
I always ask, what's he like? And okay, they might not tell me because I've bought a load of watches. That is an absolute shit. They said like, horrible man. But no, most of them sort of say, once you get to know him. And I'll actually tell you a story a little later on once we move on past this topic about, and a lot of the people of his staff stay there. They've been there for many years. Now, that doesn't happen if you have a boss you don't like. So the turnover of staff there is not... Luke's been there for decades, as has obviously Sean. And it's like...
And Ed, the boys
there's a load of them.
Jimmy.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's once you were asking me about what's Navratilova like, right? And Navratilova, fantastic person. Really, really love her to bits to work with. And again, I told you first time I met her, bit of a cold handshake. I was very young. I was sort of mid-20s and like so daunted, one of the greatest players of all time. Like, and I'm about to commentate with her. This, prestige as well. And then now, like, she knows who I am. She respects my work. So she knows I go in well researched. So she knows, I'm not going to sort of put her into holes or do anything difficult. And so, she's lovely. She's so lovely now, so down to earth, and treats you, like a friend. She's just normal and lovely. And it's like, again, probably if you first met her, you might go, oh, spiky, difficult. But again, she's got long-term friends, and you go, right, okay, there's people who've stuck around. Her agents she's had for decades. And
so your collection though is predominantly Journe now. I mean, you do have the AP, but you're predominantly F P Journe, and so that relationship has, as much as you're not doing it, to yield outcomes down the line, you've benefited from that relationship in a way that a lot of people, I think, speculate. They say, hey, I want to build that relationship with the AD. I bought one watch. But actually, if we're being honest, behind the scenes, you need to have been around for years. You need to have bought a few watches, and then it becomes a proper.
And it's receptive, right? As in, so Journe have treated me amazingly well. So I'm then going to be way more loyal to them. So when something like this happens, I'm way less likely to do that, because they're great in communication. They speak to me, and they have then got me watches that I didn't ever think I would ever be able to dream to own, and so that they've given a lot of trust to me. So it's then like, I've got to give that that back in a way as well. But at the same time, I am like, I love it. I absolutely love it. Is it 90K's worth? I don't know. No, probably not. But I absolutely love it. Wear it all the time.
You had the same experience I had with the Sport Auto, the Lauren Ferry Sport Auto, which was that we fell in love with it from a distance. We then got it in the hand on the day that we received it, and we're like, oh, I'm not absolutely sure. Like I put it on, I was like, well, I'm not absolutely sure. You I think we're similar, and then it's grown into this love affair. What's your number though? Because there has to be. You must have sat back. And, I'm putting you
Anyone out there?
I'm putting you right on the spot.
Yeah, slap $1 million in front of it. Yeah, maybe I'm going.
Because everybody has to have a number. They have to have a number. I wonder where we can take this now, this conversation, to sort of end it. And I'm just saying stuff to fill some space for you to start thinking about the number. But like, you know, what
I mean, it's a really good question, isn't it? It's a really good question. And it's a horrible question because you then sort of go, right, life-changing number. And like, and this is where I was thinking with 90K, like obviously 90K is a life-changing sum to 99% of the pop. It is to me, as in, as you know, I would like to see my son more. But the way that my job is volatile at the moment, and so I'm having some great months and then some tough months, I would like to get to a stage where I have just great months and I can pick and choose and it's solid for the next few years and I know what's coming in. And that factors into what 90K means, right? 90K right now, okay, yeah, that can pay off a chunk of my mortgage. It can maybe I could possibly buy another flat or something. I said another flat. I own a house. I don't own anything else. But that then comes with its own problems, only the 90K. And then, you know, where that goes, or do you then put that 90K into another watch? What do you do with it? And it would make my, like, would it mean I give up certain bits of my work? Well, then if I do that, I might be actually 4 or 5 years down the line, if I've given up certain parts of my work, I'm probably then going to be in trouble for 5 years down the line. So it isn't enough to completely change my life. It's not. It's a really helpful, amazing amount of money, but it's not like wipes everything
if
clean.
We get together
if I work
in 6 months' time,
if I suddenly lose a load of work again, then it probably does become and it's funny. It was funny when it happened. It happened just when I got a load of work in, and I'm now feeling like, okay, I'm a bit more comfortable, a bit more established, a bit better. I've got a bit more of a safety net. And so maybe if it had happened at a point when I was like, I'm really struggling, but even then, I have got those other watches where I'm like,
I would say honestly, you don't wear. My gut sense is that you don't wear those as much as you wear that.
The yellow peril, obviously, it's a bit of a switch with these two. The Divin, it's a special occasion watch. It's so lovely, and again, I'm slightly in London gold.
Both of those watches would be roughly half the value now of that. Like, you know, the yellow peril maybe 50-ish. I don't know the numbers.
I think again on they're about 60, 70-ish. Okay. 70-ish again, and I think the Divin, because it's a rose and grey dial. I think that's probably about 80 as well. So I think again similar. I mean, look, if I'm having to sell, it's a tough one, right? I don't.
As I've got onto
what first world problems, right?
Yeah, and it's the first one I've seen is a Vagabondage 2 popped up. It's the first watch on there with diamond bezel, factory.
But all of it
for 1.3 million.
All of this though is bonkers, right? Because my journey started with buying an 8K Elegante watch, and that was all the money I had. And you know, I've been incredibly lucky, and I'm incredibly fortunate, and I'm incredibly privileged. This is first world problems, like no tomorrow. I live in a lovely house with my wife. I've got a big mortgage. I'd love to see my child more. You know, my job's full of, I have worked my ass off for years and years and years, to a point now that my wife's worried because I'm just so in that groove without being a father. I'm just so used to working so hard because I have done for so many years. But like, so it's a first world problem to have, but it's an interesting quandary, right? That maybe you know, I was very privileged for a few who get to own these watches.
I couldn't agree more.
Are in a difficult.
And we always need to remind ourselves of that, because we have these conversations flippantly, and the realities are it's hard work out there. There's a quote that I keep coming back to in my mind, and probably more now than ever with watches, because so many watches now are trading well below what they sell for, and I don't envy anyone selling a new watch in a store now, because it's so difficult to add the value that you need to in terms of support and experience and value. But price is what you pay, and value is what you get, and that's something that really stuck with me. And I look at a watch now and I critique it, and I think, does this represent value? And I think at the price in which the price you paid for the watch, I handle that watch. I know what it's like to own now. It's a quartz watch. There has been years of development in it. It's got some special features to it. It's super cool.
Yeah.
I handle it. I'm like, okay, it's the hands, it's the dial, it's the case. It's a lot of factors coming together in the value of it or the price of what you pay. And to me, it's like, yes, that price you paid is what it's I can square away in some world that's okay.
Yeah.
But we're at a point now where that price, you know, buying that watch now for 90,000 doesn't necessarily align. And it's the same for almost 99% of watches on Chrono 24. So it's just, I'm not asking a question. I'm sort of more just working through it in my mind.
And as you say, and that's why I think we use the word hype. And but then I thought it was a hype watch anyway, you know, in terms of a bit of a one down the line, right? As in, because obviously that first leap when I bought it for 8K, to me, I remember it being worth 30K. 30K, and I remember being like, this is mad. It's worth 30K. No. It's crazy. And then now at 90, I mean, never thought it would. I mean, surely, I don't like, but you know, it is what it is. And I think, you know, we overuse the word unique, right? But as in, the it is that there, because it isn't, it's a quartz. It is a quartz, and it's electromagnetic quartz, but it sits in its own category because there isn't anything even. And the funny thing with this watch as well, the amazing thing with it is that you can sit with someone who isn't into watches and you explain it to them, and then you even put it down and you say, let's have a chat and we'll just have a beer and come back to it. And, you know, obviously not putting it down near anyone else, but you can come back to it and then you can go shake the, you know, look at it. And they're like, wow, that's the coolest watch I've ever seen. Yeah. And it's like to someone layman doesn't understand watches, they are like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
What does Mrs. make of it? Does she like it?
Loves it.
Does she?
Loves it. Yeah. I mean, she first fell in love with it when I had the orange dial and the white dial.
Yeah.
And she was just like, that watch is so cool.
On the pink particularly, but it does feel like, and it's a lovely feeling when you see a watch that you know is suited for someone. You know when you got your pink on pink today. It's just wonderful to see. Look, I'm excited about sharing this particular chat because I think this is a chat that I hope will resonate with people out there, you know, albeit probably a conversation that people might have had in their minds in years gone by, not necessarily now.
It's the same chat, isn't it, with Rolex, and everything's quantifiable, as in, you know, when you buy a Rolex, you love it, and then you might have had it for a few years, and lots of people would have had this with Rolex, and then suddenly, like the Batman, right? Suddenly that becomes worth, you know, triple the price of what it was. Obviously, it's softened now. It's all gone down a bit.
Enough, yesterday, I had an amazing day yesterday. Now, I have to just share this before we close, because how long? We're 60 minutes in. Okay. I don't want to drag people through the dirt on this, but this is just a great moment for me yesterday. I bought my first watch for, actually, it's not entirely true. I bought a second watch for my wife. It was a Cartier Panther. That she'd loved, a sort of small size, not the mini, but small size. 155 Regent Street Watch of Switzerland. Andy and the team there really looked after me. Fantastic experience. And last night she came home from work, wasn't expecting it, and our daughter gave it to her. And it was a lovely moment. Wow. And I thought, yeah.
So you just surprised out of nowhere?
Yeah. Wow. Because it's been a long time coming in my mind.
No. Jesus.
I've just been thinking about it for a long time.
My word. My wife's just looked after our son for 7 weeks on her own. Like, as in, I can get her some flowers. That's about it.
In fairness to people,
because I'm not selling this. So.
I'm selling the other watch that she used to wear a lot. That was mine / hers, and I'm selling that to fund it. She doesn't
feeling suddenly got really hot in here.
She doesn't know she doesn't necessarily know that, and she doesn't know what that's being sold for. But that's sort of funding it. And I just had a lovely experience. And then the guys were like, hey, you know, you were talking at Watches Wonders about the Pistachio Oyster Perpetual 41, which I'd never had a Rolex. I've never had a Rolex before. And they were like, hey, by the way, we might have that fairly soon for you. I was like, oh God, okay. I kind of forgotten about that. Yeah. But now I'm in a situation now. I don't know that that's trading for much more. I think one sold a week or two ago on Watch Collecting's auction platform for like 8 or 9. So a little bit more. I think they're at like 6 retail, maybe. Maybe late 5s. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. So there's a small return in there. Now I'm not going to be picking it up and then flipping it, but it's just got me thinking again into our subject today, which is like, wow, okay, there's a little bit there. It's not anywhere near the Journe space, but should I even be entertaining it? Because I'm thinking, am I going to wear it? Number one, like, am I actually going to enjoy it? Am I going to actually wear it? Do I really want it? And it's just, and then the joy of the giving yesterday, you know, it's just hit me like, wow, we bought so many watches over the years, not given many. And the joy genuinely sitting back to see it. And she's excited about getting it resized, like getting the bracelet fitted, a bit like you did with your Reverso, right?
With the Reverso,
I think I just wanted to touch on that as a sort of a
I've
concluding
got the
note.
Reverso, of course, in the
concluding
collection
note.
as well.
Yeah.
That was one that.
Oh, yeah, you've got the
because
Reverso
that was
as well.
it was a kind of in and out with Anderson Genève
It's a
40th
lovely.
birthday.
You've ticked all the icons. I mean, you've got the Rolloak, you've got the Reverso, you've got the Yellow Peril, you've got the Elegante.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the heavy hitters, but you've got the heritage there as well.
Yeah. No, it's a.
And what would you trade it for? I mean, that's the other thing. If you did take the money, like if you use the money to get yourself out the hole, you know, that suddenly would be eaten away.
I was thinking about that.
What would be better? What would actually be
Yeah,
better
and I was
for you?
thinking about that. Like, you know, but I would probably want another Journe, right? I'd probably go down that road. I mean, I thought a bit about the Anderson Genève, the new enamel, one of those. You know, that's what 55k or something like that. But again, can I wear that around London? Can I wear that doing whatever, jumping the shower? No. So it's not nowhere near as versatile. What watch am I choosing then to have that versatility that meant so much to me? And I do think watches are about connections. And talk just nicely. I've just weaved that in like a commentator, as in. Talking about connections, so I'll tell the story. I went to F P Journe in New York, went to 1916, and I also saw Crayon. Maybe a Crayon. Like I love the Crayon watches. That some of those are
Incredible.
crazy, but that wouldn't even afford it, right? I need to sell something else to get a Crayon. Anyway, away from that, went to see Will in New York. Don't know whether you've ever come across Will. Really lovely guy. I had a shocker. I must have so New York. Obviously, I'm like looking at where the boutique was. And I was in like a major rush. I had a meeting with someone in one place, then needed to get to him at a certain time. And obviously said, I'll meet you at this time. Great. Look, couldn't wait for it. It's set up by Luca. And I must have nudged my maps and it must have taken me to a completely random place. So I'm like rushing on the subway. I'm going underground here, there, everywhere. Like run. Like, oh, I've got to get there on time. I was like, I'm actually going to nail it. I'm going to get the bang on time. Got to this place and I was like, as I'm walking, I'm thinking, this does not look like a place F P Journe would be. Like, in my completely like, and then was like, nope, no, this is not it. And I was like, I had to ring him and be like, mate, I'm so sorry. Like, I know you're so busy and I've taken an hour of your time to see the New York boutique. I've ended up in another part of New York. And he was like, where have you ended up at our old shop? We used to have an old shop. I was like, no, I don't. I genuinely, it's never happened to me before.
Where did you end up? Do you remember the name?
I don't even know. It was, whether or not, I think there was a shop that I'd looked at that sold something that I'd clicked on before just to see where it was, and I'd ended up at that shop. So I'd obviously nudged it and ended up there. And because I was in such a rush, I didn't check. Never happened to me before. But anyway, lovely guy, lovely. So he then said, he said, come in anyway. Look, I might have like 20 minutes or so to see you. And I'd just seen the Holland and Holland in 1916. First time I've held one. First time I handled one. Steel dial, and that to me, one of my favourite Journes, because it's connected to London and it's connected to William and Son in a small way because they were there.
You know, they're in that location. They're in the William and Son location.
In exactly that, yeah. So because I did ask them, are you going to do something special for London? Because I wanted that connection, you know, living in London, being from the UK. And they said, actually, obviously I told you this, and I think, you know, they're not doing any more limited editions because he was fed up with people flipping them. So there's no London, because I was hoping there'd be a London limited edition. But anyway, that watch then for me though is the connection to London, and I love, again, every dial is unique because it's basically Holland and Holland steel guns, steel guns from the 1800s that they basically welded down and made into dials, and it was a really difficult process. Obviously these are, you know, vintage antique things that they're using. Anyway, so I then go and see Will, and I have no idea. Will, I know he's been at F P Journe again, another guy who's been there for years and years and years and years. And I tell him, I saw the Holland and Holland today. I got to handle it. It was fantastic in 1916. And he was like, tell you a little story. Turns out he was the guy who made all that happen. He was the guy who went into Holland and Holland, who set up the meetings.
Is he English?
No, he's American. I don't actually know, but he basically did it all. And he said it was the most stressful, chaotic, bloody nightmare. And he said on the day of the release and the launch, it was his 37th birthday. And he said he was at a point where he almost wanted to leave Journe because he was just like the stress of getting those watches. Because obviously the first batch I think produced 28, and then I think the second batch produced 38, and it was like, you know, they didn't know, they worked out a better way of doing it the second time around. So it's an absolute shit show trying to do the dials, trying to get everything right, using steel, which again for Journe they don't ever use that material. Obviously the guns are made of steel, so I think that was the connection there.
I didn't know the case was steel.
Yeah, case was steel, like 39 mil as well. So again, same as the chronometric blue, which is tantalum, and obviously that's a holy grail
type. The first article I ever wrote for Dinky was that watch. I went in and shot that watch in the boutique, and I remember the feedback from William and Son, 2 doors down, 3 doors down, was not good, because they retailed F P Journe.
Yes.
And they did not have those watches to sell.
Yeah.
And so there was this like proper fuck you moment on the
Oh,
street.
really?
It was like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Oh,
Classic,
a bit of war.
classic. Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm chatting to him and he was like, tells me the story. And then he was like, oh, and then he said, I'm at that point of breaking point. And Francois Paul was there, pulls out of his pocket the 37, number 37 of that Holland and Holland, gave him a specific watch and said it's 37 because it's your 37th birthday. No. There you go, on a steel bracelet as well. And he then, as I'm sat there chatting to him, what does he do? Pull that exact watch out of his pocket, hands it to me. And I was like, oh my word. And it was so well worn, you know, and I was then chatting to Edward, who knows him obviously really well in London Boutique. And he just said, he does everything in that watch, like swims with it, whatever. And again, there's no screw down crown there. And so but he just does everything in it, fully lives with it. And that did also make me think about this, like, as in, I think watches are like connections and they connect you to people as well. And moments like that where people have put their trust in you, you don't get rid of that watch. You know, that watch I think is now trending. I think that's like 120 grand now. And okay, and it's, again, it's just a dial. Okay, the dial's amazing, but it's a steel, so it's really rare and all of those things. But I just thought, that classic case, and it was unbelievable to handle it, and it'd been so well worn, and he'd worn it all the time. He loves it, and it felt actually odd to handle, because you're so used to the bracelets being platinum or gold, and it's like the heft, and it was like, this just doesn't feel right.
Is that
and
the one and only steel bracelet they've ever produced?
I think it's steel bracelet, and still, I think it is the one and only steel case. I think I may be wrong there, but yeah, I mean, again, so that's why, again, it's more of a collectible. But there you go, there's a story in terms of, and I just thought that fits into the relationships and collectability, and what he could have gone and sold that now, and even more so now, because Journe himself gives so few watches away, so few, obviously to the staff of this restaurant, the Red
he's still there. It's amazing.
But yeah,
and as you touched on, the people who work for him don't leave.
Yeah,
I think that's a lovely way, Pete's Boy, to conclude, because actually I think there's a lot to dive into and lots to consider there, and we'll have a follow up on the same subject in 6 months' time, and see where the price is.
Okay. Now on to you. You've got 6 minutes.
Oh, okay. What would you like me to do?
Well, you said you got some new watches, and
I've got one.
We always do this. We just throw them at the camera.
I know. I've got one watch that I have picked up recently that I haven't yet sort of talked a great deal about. But this, when I look at this is a watch that I feel like I see a lot more value in than cost. Actually,
unbelievable.
It's just an incredible watch. And talking your combo, your pink. This is your cherry on the cake. Your triple threat pink combo today. It is a pink dial. It's much pinkier than it is summer, but this is the 1860 Chopard LUC from the 90s, late 90s. Sort of fell in love with this design when Chopard re-released it a few years ago at Watches and Wonders without the date window, which people went nuts for. Revolution have done a limited edition with a sort of champagne color dial, beautiful, which is stunning. The proportions of it, the fact that LUC to me is just this really mythical sort of beast. Like, there's a lot to sink your teeth into there that's really exciting. The fact that they spent, I think it's the 196 caliber. Let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure it is. Oh God, I can't even see where it's written now. Yeah, 196. Michel Parmigiani spent so long working on this with Mr. Chouffalet at Chopard. It's just so elegant. It's so thin. It might be one of the finest dress watches I've ever seen. It is in so many ways like the mini Dufour, because this dial is from Metallum, the same company that make Dufour's watches. But what they've done is they've made a simple design really quite recognizable. The diamond markers for me, that guilloche medallion in the middle, which is Dufour-like. I like the date window. I know it's divisive, but in this instance, I like it. It's grained. It's color matched. It's got layers and depth to it. And it's just wonderful. So shout out to Tim Green, as always, from Subdial for sorting me. The story with this watch, though, is that London Watch Week, which happened recently, which was great fun. Thank you very much to those who came.
Sorry, I missed it.
No. Next year.
Or even at New York. I don't know where I was. But
next year. Yeah. The danger is never do an event, because you'll always end up paying the price. And when you've got dealers, and we had all the best dealers, I thought, on the show. And as soon as I saw this in the lineup, you see loads of watches together. It's always interesting to see which one you gravitate towards. And I just spotted this. I was like, oh my God, I knew immediately because I saw the date. I was like, that's an OG. That's an OG 1860. 36.5 millimeters, white gold, unlike the steel version, which they reissued, it's white gold. And I couldn't take it off. I kept saying to Tim, I must have tried it on 4 or 5 times that weekend. And I just couldn't take it off. And the depth on it, look at the depth on it. Now, The big elephant in the room is, of course, I've talked a lot about sizing, and this would be one of the smaller watches that I've ever owned. In fact, I think it might be, alongside the Mercator, probably one of the smallest.
What is it?
It's 36.5. Coming up to
That's
30.
fine for me. If you ever want to just give it to me, just as
That
like
size,
a
people,
placeholder. Happy to be a
I've worn
placeholder.
it for a week non-stop, and I absolutely love the proportions of it. It wears actually a little bit bigger. I think it's got a bit more presence to it.
Yeah, so the lugs are quite elongated.
Yeah, they're very different, the lugs in this version than the original. Than the reissued one. I just think it's absolutely.
I love it. I mean, I love the re-releases anyway, and I got hands on with the champagne dial one as well. And as I've told you about my friend Michael in Leeds, who's got one, and he just said, he owns Futalainen, he owns watches I could only dream of, Balward and Ludovic Balward, and so yeah, he said, but when he's out and about, how it plays with the light and what it does, that's the re-release. I'm with you as well, though. I think maybe again, it's part of my brain going, well, there's something different about that one.
Yeah.
As in the date window.
It's a bit of an Easter egg for people like
exactly
the super geeks now.
Yes, super geeks.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I would say that colour, to me, looking at that colour versus the new colour, it is also different. I would say just this has a pinkiness to it. Whereas the other ones maybe got a bit more punch to it. This is quite subtle. I just love this people. Honestly, the size of the proportions of the Chopard logo stamped on there, the fact that it is Chopard, and the fact that to many still out there, the brand would never be on their radar. Yeah. I just love it. The micro rotor. Parmigiani spent years trying to develop this micro rotor, and for many out there, it's.
I hope it stays in your collection.
Yeah, I hope it does.
I'm not sure it will, because I know what you're like, but I love it. Yeah. I absolutely love it. It's right up there.
And do you know what you need to do sometimes? Yeah. If you have a watch box at home, you can sometimes get disorientated when you see all of them looking back at you. Mm-hmm. I find like wearing a watch for a while is such a joy, because you really get to connect and see all of what the maker and the designer wanted you to see and feel when you have a period of time with it. Mm-hmm. That's what I've had with that watch, and I've loved it. And I'm so excited to dive into. I'm going to get the certificate and some paperwork from Chopard soon, once they're back from their summer holidays. But just go back and show them at the boutique. And by all accounts, I tell you, a shout out to Maxim from Mr. Watchley, the dealer in Belgium, because he sold a lot of these over the years. In fact, he sold one. He told me, a salmon, for a ludicrous. He wanted to keep it for himself, but someone offered him so much for it that he had a number which he couldn't refuse. Yeah. And they made very, very few. The idea was there was going to be 1,860 of the whole load of them. But he said that basically they made very, very few, because they weren't particularly successful on them. Mm-hmm. And the salmon particularly, the pink particularly, was produced in very, very small quantities.
It's funny, not to go back to Jean, but we can. So, I'm on the list for the Automatique, if we can get to afford it. But I was told it probably might be next year. Mm. But I was on Rose, and I was on salmon and Rose. Mm. And then Will was like, you should do platinum on, but obviously that salmon means you've got to apply for that, and then whether it might take longer. And so I'm torn at the moment. What I've said, I want the platinum and Rose, and because that for me is just unbelievable. Anyway, there we go. But yeah, it's playing in my mind at the moment. But anyway.
On that note, guys, you can see Pete and I are massively addicted, and there'll never be an end to this story. And that's why it's called The Watch Journey. On that note, thank you very much for joining us as always, Pete. Thank you, my boy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, apologies. Hopefully it won't be as long next time.
No, God, well, hold tight. I don't even know how long we've been. Guys, thanks for joining us. Please leave your comments below. We will respond to each and every one of them, no matter how offensive they may be. Goodbye.